The great baritone guitar shootout is here. Do you want a more vintage style baritone, or do you want a modern style baritone? And are there even other options aside from that? Let's find out. We'll be looking at 4 guitars today. We'll be looking at 2 30-inch scale baritones, a Squier Bass 6, and a Danelectro UB-2 reissue, as well as a modern 27-inch scale PRS, and a Sterling 7-string just for fun to see how that handles the baritone guitar sound. I've also decided to test each baritone on a clean and a dirty setting. The clean setting, we will use a tremolo for a more vintage-inspired baritone sound. And for the dirty setting, we will be using this Estonian Caravan FET distortion given me by my friend Siim Kuusik. Shout out Kuusik. It's an incredible Marshall-style pedal. Let's get to it. First up on our list is the Danelectro UB-2 reissue. This is the original baritone electric guitar. They were called 6-string basses, and they were strung E to E. These are 30 inches scale length, so they're the same size as a short scale bass. This one is strung B to B, which is a practice that I believe started probably in the 80s, perhaps the late 70s, when guitarists realized they didn't actually need that super, super low toning for their baritone guitars. Here it is with the tremolo on a clean setting. Let's get into it. All right, and here we're going to use the distortion and see what kind of modern baritone sounds we can get. Next up is the Bass 6. This was Fender's response to the Danelectro. It came out in the early 60s, I think 1961, compared to the Danelectro's 58 appearance. This one I have kept in E to E tuning. This is the way that all 6-string basses or baritone electric guitars were tuned in the 60s, in the late 50s and 60s. Often used for tic-tac bass. I'm going to do the same thing I did with it before. Here it is with the tremolo. And, as so many of you like to do, let's see how it handles some distortion. It's also the only one of the originals that has a whammy bar. Now the 7-string guitar, as we know it, came out in about 1990, and shortly thereafter, people started to realize that baritone guitars needed an update. I started to see these things a little bit more in the 2000s, but basically the modern electric baritone is 27 inches instead of 30 inches. So it's somewhere in between a 6-string, 7-string, kind of 25 and a half Fender scale, or 24 for Gibson, and 30-inch vintage baritone. 27 inches is a little bit easier if you're used to more standard guitars. This PRS is on loan to me from Blake Baxter. Shout out Blake. Let's hear it on the clean with the tremolo. Now, this one has a little split coil, so we can actually get single coil mode. Sounds a little bit more like the vintage ones. Yeah. All right, let's hear how it sounds with some overdrive. Now lastly, I have here a 7-string. This is not a baritone guitar. This is in fact 25 and a half scale length 7-string guitar. Why is it here? It's my belief that the 7-string is sort of the missing link between the older vintage baritones and the more modern ones. As players realized they didn't really want that extra 7th string, just wanted to play like they played their 6 strings but play lower, the modern 27-inch baritone kind of showed up. There is even a 27-inch 7-string and 8-string and so on and so forth, so baritone scale length has now been combined with extended range instruments. The thing I like about this 7-string is that it's the same scale length as playing your 6-string guitar, and also it has your regular 6-string in it. So all the stuff you can do on 6, you can do here. You just haven't added 7. Let's hear it with the tremolo first. Alright, but where does it really shine? So what's my takeaway from this experiment? Well, my feeling is if you're looking for a vintage baritone sound, perhaps a surfy kind of spaghetti western kind of thing, you probably want to go with either the bass 6 or the Dano baritone. The Dano in B2B tuning is a little thinner, which is actually good for that vintage sound, but the bass 6 performs admirably, and of course with some tweaking to the amp you can get it to be thinner as well. It also has a bass cut switch, so you can make it thinner that way. The bass 6 is an incredible instrument because it can double as a bass. It can actually get into all that kind of new high gain territory as well, albeit with a single coil sound, and the 2 pickups don't really humbuck very well when they're put together. But if you're looking for a modern baritone sound, hard rock, metal, something of the like, the Dano is not for you. The bass 6 might suffice as it can go lower, but if you really want to do tight metal stuff, there's nothing like that 27-inch baritone or even that 7-string. You can't count out the 7-string. The baritone, the PRS, or any modern 27-inch baritone doesn't really do the spaghetti western thing as well, although the split on the PRS made for a very convincing single coil sound, which I liked a lot. The 7-string probably performed the least in terms of the vintage baritone sound, but it did have a whammy bar, which let us kind of get a little surfy. And to be honest, I've actually played gigs with the 7-string where I've done metal riffs right next to Twin Peaks, and it sounded fine. So there you have it. If you want to go more modern and play a lot more chuggy stuff, get one of the more modern ones. If you want to go vintage, get one of the vintage ones. And if you want to go somewhere in between, the bass 6 is totally right for you. Thanks for watching.